Hi, I'm Wendy Turner, Executive Director of Michigan Public. You might have heard that public media is under threat. You're not wrong. But I come to tell you that your voice has power. Visit protectmypublicmedia.org, contact your lawmakers, and take a stand today.
From Michigan Public, this is It's Just Politics. I am Zoe Clark.
And I'm Rick Pluta.
Today, frustration is boiling over at the state capitol on what could be the final day of Democrats' complete control of Lansing in 40 years.
Commit to real conversations that'll help Michigan workers, that'll fix our roads, and protect our small businesses and restaurants, or adjourn. Just adjourn.
Republicans are boycotting votes in the House.
Well, how can we have a conversation if they're not here? They decided to, go and make snow angels out in front of the Capitol.
A Democratic lawmaker has walked out of the Capitol while voting was underway.
Without objection, so ordered. The House will stand at ease at the call of the chair.
And it appears some lawmakers are just having their own Festivus early.
That does not demonstrate a level of seriousness in doing the job.
With the airing of grievances.
That is political grandstanding.
To quote one Jake Tapper, it is a hot mess inside of a dumpster fire.
Inside of a train wreck.
So today on the show, we break down the breakdown. And there is literally no one we'd rather have on today than Zach Gorchow, president of Gongwer News Service. Hi, Zach.
Hello, Zoe and Rick.
Hi.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness. President Gorchow, have you ever seen anything like this in Lansing before during a lame duck?
No, this is unprecedented. For sure, there's been blow-ups against legislative leadership and dissension and anger, but it's, comes earlier in the term and it's usually worked out and it blows over. And here it's coming in lame duck as Democratic control is about to end. I mean, there's no time to make up for it. Who knows when Democrats will ever have control like this next? And I think it's just causing this tremendous amount of stress and anguish.
So we should talk about how Democrats are also part of the drama here. But first, Republicans walk out. They say they won't come back until they get votes on legislation that they want. Are they winning the messaging battle at the Capitol right now?
I think yes, but I think this is about tactics more than message. And I think Matt Hall, the House Minority Leader, Republican leader, and the incoming Speaker of the House starting January 8th, made a very calculated move, knowing if all 54 of us stay off the floor and Democrats have no choice in the House but to have all 56 members there and voting yes, they're going to fall apart. It's like a caucus that's a house of cards, and they're not going to be able to do it. And he's right. If that was his calculation, and I think it was
good.
It has worked out because at least one Democrat, Karen Whitsett from Detroit, walked out of session last Friday. She, as we record here, has refused to come to session. And so they don't have a quorum in the House. They can't conduct any business. And I think, I don't really think Matt Hall cares about the messaging battle. The point here is stop this Democratic trifecta in its tracks. He's doing it.
The messaging and the policy or the policy blocking are not mutually exclusive.
No, I think from a messaging standpoint, he can say, look, the House Democrats are refusing to act, namely the Speaker of the House, Joe Tate from Detroit, is refusing to act on changing the wage law and the sick time laws that are supposed to take effect next February. If you were to put the changes to those two bills up for votes on the voting board in the House, they would probably get 65 to 70 votes in favor, those being all the Republicans and a pretty good chunk of the Democrats. But Speaker Tate has decided to oppose them, and so he's not going to put them up on the voting board. And Matt Hall said, you know what, that's fine. We're going to be the majority next term. We don't have to stick around. Have fun with that.
Zach, as I was talking, we're all talking with folks all week about what's going on. But one of the things that I get asked a lot about what is going on in Lansing is the actual why. Why are Democrats in disarray? I have some theories we will discuss, but I want to hear from you. What is the foundational issue within this caucus right now?
I think a lot of the responsibility for this does fall at Speaker Tate's doorstep. He has done a couple things that I think go against the idea of what people would call member management, meaning taking care of the Democratic members, making sure their priorities get a vote and get passed. There's a few Democrats, maybe more than a few, who feel like he's broken his word to them. So you start there. Then it was Speaker Tate's decision to really have the House sit out most of this year, 2024. The House has only really been in session for 2.5 months, really. It's supposed to be a full-time chamber. And there's a lot of frustration, among other House Democrats, like, hey, we were elected to serve. Why aren't we here? Why aren't we passing our priorities and policy that we believe in? So when you have all of those things, that's a huge part of the fuel to this fire. You also do have a caucus that, has a lot of factions. There's a progressive faction that feels like there should be hard left policies getting passed. This is our chance to remake the state. Well, there aren't 56 votes in the Democratic caucus for all of what they want to do. There's a number of Democrats who represent more middle of the road districts that aren't going to support it. And that's caused a lot of issues there as well. And the last thing I'll say is there's a pretty decently sized contingent of the House Democratic caucus that's never served in the minority. All these first-term members don't know what it means to serve in the minority. And so they're, they don't know the consequences of losing it. They're going to find out next term.
And I mean, that's a really good point, too, that I think we all have to kind of think about is one of the tensions I think all of us have heard over the past 2 years of Democratic control is there were a number, as you say, of new lawmakers coming in who not just had their own policies that they wanted to push, but in many respects didn't quite, if you hear sort of from the lobbying core, establishment Lansing, say, didn't quite understand the rules or didn't quite follow sort of how Lansing is supposed to operate. And that there was this group of folks who just came in and wanted to get what they wanted to get done. Is that fair?
Some of them, yes. But, in some ways, I think it's not fair. I mean, I'll take like State Representative Emily Devendorf. She's a Democrat from Lansing, would definitely be one of these progressives, but she is not a Lansing newbie.
Right.
She was on staff for many years.
Yep.
She was on staff when Democrats had the majority in the late 2000s. She knows, how things work around town and how to get things done. She's also, definitely well to the left of your median House Democrat, and she was pushing for sort of a housing Bill of Rights piece of legislation. She wasn't able to get the votes for it. And I think, in that case, that's more of where the disagreements among the members come into play about where to go with policy. It's not because Representative Devendorf doesn't understand how things work. She does know. I believe she did try and work all the angles and avenues you're supposed to. The bill was moved through a subcommittee process. It got to the full committee. It got to the House floor. But at the end of the day, she couldn't get 56 votes. And that's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. But it does add to this feeling in the caucus that, why aren't we in this together? Sort of all for one for all kind of thing. There's just not an agreement on some core issues. And it's just kind of created this powder keg it's just kind of unbelievable.
That is Zach Gorchow, president of Gongware News Service. We are talking about really this Democratic implosion of power happening in real time in Lansing today.
So we've just been talking about the House, but let's remember there's another chamber in all of this, the Senate, also run by Democrats, and the third leg of the Democratic trifecta, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, well into her second term. She just yesterday seemed to throw kind of a wrench into this already inoperable machine. Zach, what did she have to say?
Wow. So he met with the Speaker of the House, Joe Tate, and the Senate Majority Leader, Winnie Brinks. This is the Democratic leadership at the Capitol. And we are told, conveyed to them, and these words are important, so I'm going to try to use them as exactly as I can remember them. They should not expect further bill signings unless they deliver on their promises to pass a road funding solution and economic development legislation. And there's a whole lot of things to unpack with this. But let's just start with the governor saying this and kind of what the maybe goal was here. The governor went into lame duck, and unlike really consistent with the whole year, but in contrast to 2023, did not lay out, here is my agenda, here's what I want to get done. My theory into why she did that is because she knew what she wanted was going to require Republican votes, road funding in particular. And if she went out and declared these things, Matt Hall, the Republican leader in the House, would be like, okay, the price of that just went up in terms of the Republican bills I want. But it seems to have not worked. And here we are at the 11th hour, and I think finally her team realized we've got to do something. The legislature's imploding. What they've chosen to do, it doesn't seem to have worked. It clearly landed with a thud. Senator Sylvia Santana, a Democrat from Detroit, who I think most would consider Karen Whitsett, Democrat from Detroit, has a history of bucking the majority. And
Yeah.
that is not the case with Senator Santana. She posted on Facebook last night kind of extraordinary image of Glinda, the Good Witch. I guess it's very on trend. And basically said something to the effect, this was directly reacting to the governor's words. Sorry, Glinda, all of the magic in your wand, ink in your pen has run out. And this is not an appropriate message to be sending to try to get votes. I'm paraphrasing that part. And so as we speak on Wednesday, December 18th, Senator Sylvia Santana is not at the Capitol. That means Senate Democrats do not have the votes they need to pass bills. And it is basically ground the Capitol to a complete halt. When Senator Brinks, her response last night was, there are too many priorities going on to just focus on these two things. It seems to me if Governor Whitmer wanted to play hardball, that time passed. That I don't know if this was a Hail Mary or what, but it doesn't seem to have worked. The other thing I flat out just didn't understand with it was, one, that is not a veto threat. I know it's been portrayed by some as a veto threat, but saying people should not expect she should sign bills is definitely not a veto threat, number one.
Because she can pick and choose still.
Well, she could say, I will veto these bills, but not exactly. She could say, I will sign this because I want it, or I won't sign this because I'm not happy you fell apart. And it should be noted, there are some big bills on her desk right now.
Extension of unemployment benefits. Something that Democrats 10 years ago, if they knew was on the table with a Democratic governor able to sign, but decided that they wouldn't, that would be malpractice.
I laughed. I went to go look and see, all right, what's on the governor's desk right now? And the bill you just mentioned, Zoe, raising unemployment benefits for the first time in 22 years. Reestablishing a maximum of 26 weeks instead of 20 weeks of benefits as a maximum. That's on her desk right now, even if the legislature turns off the lights and goes home today. So she's really not going to sign that? I just can't imagine that legislative Democrats took those comments very seriously. She's of course going to sign that bill. And there's another 25 or so bills likely on the way to her desk now, again, regardless of whether they pass anything else. So I just don't know that was really received as anything with any teeth behind it. And I don't know that it did the governor a lot of good.
Isn't that kind of the next question? That what is Governor Whitmer risking with this particular gambit, especially if it doesn't play out as intended?
I think the conundrum for the governor is I don't know what the right path, in fairness to her, I don't know what the path is here, because clearly the House Democrats, part of their issue is they feel like Speaker Tate has been too much fealty to the governor. So it's not like the governor could come into the House Democratic caucus and say, hey, team, we got to rally together here, because it seems like there's some frustration that all they've done is carry the governor's water and pass her bills, and it's not been enough of their priorities addressed. Fairly or unfairly, that seems to be the sentiment. So it doesn't seem like that would work. The get tough message, that doesn't seem to be working, but maybe they felt like we got nothing to lose at this point. It's all falling apart anyways. I don't know. I just know that if this is how it ends, if the white flag gets raised, and who knows, maybe they somehow pull this out of the fire, but it doesn't look real good right now. If the white flag gets raised, it will go down as part of the governor's legacy that she had only the fourth Democratic legislature in the history of this state. And basically half of it, the entire year of 2024, was wasted. I don't know how to put it any other way. I mean, they did do a lot of things in 2023, but if there was the idea after the November 22 election that this is an opportunity for Gretchen Whitmer to go down in history as like the Democratic governor who left the biggest policy legacy of any Democratic governor, more than Jim Blanchard, more than Soapy Williams, and on and on and on. I don't know that she's going to be able to say that. I mean, it'll take a while for the history books to chime in on that, but so many of the legacy-making policy bills are sitting in the legislature right now. And it's going to be years from now, Democrats are going to be tearing their hair out that they fell way short of what could have been.
And we should remember that this is a governor who came in with great expectations because she had such vast experience in the legislature as a deal maker. I mean, it's been a long time
only
since
in the
we've had someone
minority.
like that. That's true, but still experienced.
Yeah, I think it is surprising that for a governor with 14 years of legislative experience, that this has been so challenging. I do think there is something to the fact that the governor is of an earlier generation of Democrats, that a lot of the Democrats, particularly in the House today, have a slightly different worldview. I mean, they agree on a lot of things, no question about it. But, she made a very calculated decision to focus on economic incentives, taxpayer incentives for economic development. But that was really going to be a big focus of hers. And it has just, flown in the face of what a lot of House Democrats want. And that has been a huge clashing point.
What's the old adage? I'm not part of an organized party. I'm a Democrat. Seems more relevant today than really any other day in quite a long time. We have been joined by the incomparable Zach Gorchow, president of Gongwer News Service. Zach, thank you so much for your brain today.
Happy to be with you guys.
And Rick, just shortly after we got done talking with Zach, Governor Gretchen Whitmer posted this video to X, and interestingly enough, doesn't even mention lame duck.
Since I took office, I've been focused on getting things done that make a real difference for working families. When we deliver on the kitchen table issues, we make people's lives easier and better. And that's why we're fixing the damn roads, putting hundreds of dollars back in people's pockets at tax time with the Working Families Tax Credit, feeding students a free breakfast and lunch at school, lowering the cost of pre-K and community college, and protecting our clean air and water. In 2025, we'll stay focused on these fundamental issues and fight for working families.
And so, with that look ahead to 2025, that is It's Just Politics for today. I am Zoe Clark.
And I am Rick Pluta.
Let's talk again next year. Boy, oh boy, is there going to be a lot to talk about.